Here's the thing. A lot of members of the left are starting to realize that wokeness is destroying America, which is why of late you've seen some conversations about how you're not supposed to use the term wokeness, which is weird since they made it up. And so I'm fine with using the term wokeness. I intend on continuing to use that word. It is their fault that it became a poisonous word, not mine. It's because the idea is incredibly stupid.
Alright, here's the situation. Wokeness is everywhere. You can't scroll through Twitter, watch a Netflix show, or even grab a cup of coffee without someone bringing it up. And you know who never shies away from calling it out? Ben Shapiro. Like him or not, Ben has made it his mission to go after woke culture piece by piece. And when he goes in, he doesn't hold back. Let's start with the word woke itself. Oddly enough, the very people who created the term are now saying we shouldn't use it anymore. Really? Ben isn't buying that. His view is simple. They came up with the term, not him, so why should he drop it now that it's turned toxic? That's their problem, not his. Ben's main argument is that wokeness is tearing America apart. And to be honest, a lot of people seem to agree. Remember that video I did on Ben Shapiro? The one that blew up with thousands of likes and comments? Clearly, his message is striking a chord with many of you. Before I continue, I need a quick favor. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. Over 98% of our viewers watch without subscribing, and while it's completely free for you, it makes a huge difference for us. Have you subscribed? Perfect. Thank you so much for the support. Now, back to IT's. Why is Ben so worked up about wokeness? According to him, it's built on lies, 4 major ones to be exact. Lies about America itself. Lies about inequality. Lies about personal responsibility. And the biggest one, lies about truth itself. That's a lot of dishonesty, and Ben is relentless in calling it out.
The problem with wokeness is that, bottom line, it promulgates lies. In particular, it promulgates 4 sets of lies. It promulgates lies about the nature of the United States. It promulgates lies about the nature of inequality. It promulgates lies about the nature of responsibility. And finally, it promulgates lies about the nature of truth itself.
Ben describes what he calls a woke priesthood. The intellectual elites who control the narrative and decide who gets forgiven for their mistakes, as long as they stick to the approved script. He says this constant shifting of rules isn't just confusing, it's dangerous. When the rules keep changing, chaos is the only outcome. And he doesn't stop there. Ben even compares woke culture to a cult, not only because of its strict beliefs, but also because of how those beliefs are enforced. Think about it, if you go along with the ideology, you're excused of all wrongs. But the moment you step out of line and challenge the dogma, you pay the price.
It's got a nearly impenetrable code. The code is constantly changing and it's constantly moving. You have no idea what the standard is from day to day, but that code is brought to you by a priestly caste of really intelligent and woke people who will be able to absolve you of sin so long as you listen to everything they say. There is an intermediate.
And here's the thing, there's no forgiveness. The woke crowd shows no mercy to anyone who strays from their rules. It feels like something out of a dystopian novel where people live in fear of breaking unwritten laws. Ben argues that in this world, the rules aren't written down, but they're absolutely enforced by those in charge. Don't follow them, and you'll face consequences. And big brands are lining up to play along. Take Ford, for example. During Pride Month, they released a rainbow-colored Ford F-150.
It's got sacrificial rights, right? People who are bad, who do not mouth the proper catechism, are immediately destroyed, and there's no forgiveness. And there's no forgiveness.
Yes, you heard that right. A rainbow Ford F-150. A truck that's supposed to symbolize rugged masculinity, hauling lumber and heavy loads, suddenly rebranded for Pride Month. Now, supporting causes is one thing, and no one has an issue with that, but Ben's point is that many of these companies are just jumping on the woke bandwagon for PR. It's about looking good, not about genuine belief. And according to Ben, the real gatekeepers of wokeness aren't just activists on Twitter. They're the media. Think the New York Times editorial board, online mobs, and late-night talk show hosts. They're the ones driving the narrative. What's worse, even these gatekeepers rely on their own woke intermediaries to tell them how to frame issues. Ben jokes that it's gotten so extreme that some media figures literally have to call up their black friends to explain blackness to them, just to avoid being accused of white privilege.
Ford has decided for Pride Month, they're going to release a rainbow Ford F-150. Again, rainbow wheel rolling over a human face forever. And Ford's F-150 brand is supposed to be the manly men who are like picking up lumber in the back of their...
Ben ramps it up even more here. He says woke culture is ruthless. If you don't recite the approved catechism, you're done. That's cancel culture. Once you're labeled problematic, there's no coming back. It doesn't matter if the mistake was decades ago or just a misunderstanding. If you cross the line, the woke mob cancels you, no second chances. Ben argues this total lack of forgiveness is exactly why wokeness is so dangerous. There's no room for nuance, no room for growth. It's just black and white. So how do you survive in this environment? According to Ben, it's simple: listen, repeat, and follow the script. But if you think for yourself, good luck.
Intermediary between you and wokeness. The intermediary is fairly obvious, right? It is all the members of the New York Times editorial board. It is all the people who tweet angrily on Twitter. It is your late night host, but even they have intermediaries. They have to call in some of their black friends, as we saw on all of the late night TV shows last night, in order to interpret blackness for them so that they can absolve themselves of their own white privilege.
In Ben's eyes, it's almost like woke followers are zombies, just repeating whatever they've been told. It's harsh, but that's his view. Then he dives into one of the most heated issues, sex and gender. Woke culture insists sex and gender are completely separate. Ben isn't having it. He argues gender is tied directly to biology, and separating the two simply doesn't make sense.
Sex and gender are two different concepts, but gender is tied to biology. So one of the big problems that you see in sort of the argument in favor of trans rights is this notion that gender and sex are completely separable. They're not completely separable. If they are completely separable, then this means that identifying people by their subjective gender really has no relevance as to whether they are a male or a female.
Ben asks, if gender isn't tied to biological sex, then what's the point? It's a passionate argument, and he makes it clear. He's not going along with woke logic. He even brings up his friend Matt Walsh's famous question. What is a woman? Such a simple question, right? Yet when Ben asked a trans activist, the response was silence.
Is a woman? Define what a woman is without reference to the word woman, please.
Instead of answering, the activist accused Ben of using a logical fallacy, a clear attempt to dodge the question. Ben says this is typical. When faced with tough questions, woke activists often pivot or attack the questioner instead of engaging with the point. And he doesn't stop there. Ben criticizes what he sees as the politicization of medicine. He argues that many doctors are bending to woke ideology, pushing a false narrative about gender and biology.
So then you actually just disagree with medical consensus within the Western nation?
Yes, I disagree with the false medical consensus driven by politically driven, quote-unquote, doctors. If any doctor denies to me that there is a dichotomy between male and female, a sexual dichotomy between male and female, they are ignorant, and they are letting their politics get in the way of their science.
He goes so far as to say, if a doctor tells you there's such a thing as a pregnant male, that's not a doctor, that's an activist. Next voice. That's a bold claim, and whether you agree or not, it definitely makes you stop and think. Ben isn't afraid to swing hard. Then he points out what he sees as the biggest irony of woke culture, the claim that both speech and silence are violence. Yes, you heard that right. If you say something and someone doesn't like it, that's violence. If you stay silent, that's violence too. How are people supposed to communicate if everything is labeled as harmful?
I suggest to you that there is such a thing, for example, as a pregnant male is not a doctor, they are an activist.
Ben jokes that at this rate, Americans might have to start miming or tap dancing, since both talking and staying quiet are apparently off limits. It's funny, but he's making a serious point. In his eyes, wokeness is like a virus, infecting everything it touches. And he's not the only one who feels this way. At the end of the day, Ben argues that wokeness has become a kind of substitute religion. For people who've abandoned traditional faith, it fills that God-shaped hole. It gives them rituals, beliefs, and a way to divide the believers from the non-believers.
Heard that speech is violence. So if I say something you don't like, I have enacted violence upon you. I used to hear this when I would speak at college campuses. People were literally chanting speech is violence when I spoke at UC Berkeley. Also, silence is violence. So if you don't speak, that's a form of violence. So if you do speak and we don't like it, that's violence. If you don't speak, that is also a form of violence.
But here's the question. Does that really hold up? Is wokeness truly a new religion with its own high priests and rituals, or is Ben stretching the metaphor too far? What do you think? Does Ben Shapiro have a point, or is he just stirring controversy? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up. More videos are on the way, and trust me, you won't want to miss them.